For instance, here in Singapore, IMDA, amazing forward-leaning organization, has leveraged the AWS Generative AI platform to reduce preparing legal briefs. That productivity is amazing. Look at Tata Consulting that uses our Amazon Q developer. They've gone ahead and increased productivity 30%. The National Australian Bank also using Amazon Q for developer, increasing productivity 18%. Fujita University up in Japan, in their healthcare, they've been using generative AI from AWS to help accelerate discharge of patients by 90%.
This is the Impact series, where we explore how technology, collaboration, and shared ambition are shaping what's next across Asia Pacific. I'm Ahmad Akhtar, co-anchor of Money FM 89.3's Breakfast Show, and today I'm joined by Jeffrey B. Kratz, Vice President of Worldwide Public Sector Industry Sales and Nonprofit at Amazon Web Services, a key player helping unlock new possibilities through cloud innovation, AI, and scalable digital infrastructure. We'll be exploring how AWS is helping drive intelligentization and internationalization across the region, from accelerating AI deployment to enhancing digital resilience and enabling inclusive impact at scale. Jeffrey, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's wonderful to be back here in Singapore.
Wonderful to have you here with us on Impact Insights. Now, AWS is a household name in the tech space. You support governments and enterprises across diverse APAC markets. And the reason your services are, I imagine, are so highly sought after is because you keep a finger on the pulse of shifting consumer preferences. Against that backdrop, in what ways are client expectations around AI and the cloud evolving?
Well, you're right that one of the primary leadership principles that we have is we start with the customer and we work our way backwards. And there's such inspiration coming throughout this region in so many different ways. That's from startups to education institution, enterprises, governments acting like startups now. And from that perspective, we're continuing to invest in the region dramatically. Around the world, this year we'll be investing over $100 billion in infrastructure. And in particular, about a third of our infrastructure is here in this geo. And from that perspective, what's keeping us moving is starting with the customer and helping ensure, first of all, that we have the infrastructure needed for our customers to realize their digital transformation. That includes security, compliance, the different tool sets that are there. The second big area that we focus on is to really make sure that we're helping them on their digital transformation journey. Every organization is a little different, some way advanced. In fact, we've seen Singapore in particular around the world be a lighthouse of inspiration for other countries, other industries in so many different ways. And then the third is making sure that they have the flexibility. Our approach in generative AI is that no one model will solve everything that customers are asking. It's one of choice. So we start and look and say, okay, from a chipset perspective, do they want to run on our own chipsets that AWS makes, NVIDIA, Intel, AMD's? Well, which language model? We support a number of different language models. And as we move up stack, is providing that level of choice wrapped with security, wrapped with compliance throughout. That enables then organizations to go ahead and accelerate their own digital transformation much more rapidly. And we're seeing inspiration and organizations throughout the geo continue to thrive with our generative AI platform.
Where do you see the biggest friction between what clients want from AI and what infrastructure is ready to deliver, and how can that gap be closed?
Well, one of the fun parts of my job is I'm traveling about 3 weeks of each month, meeting with government officials, different ministries, our partners like NCS and others. And many of them asking a couple of different questions. One, how do I get started? Or how do I catch up, depending on the respective industries? The second then is, how do I keep up with the massive rate of innovation that's occurring? We have millions of active customers around the world, and the innovation factory continues. And in fact, before we go to bed tonight, on average, we will release between 9 to 11 updates, service, or enhancements to the fleet, which is an amazing amount of innovation in generative AI that's occurring. And then the third is about talent. So how are we helping them do that? One is that we're continuing to invest ahead of that demand. So here in Singapore, we just launched a brand new innovation center for the region. It's about an 8,000 square foot facility, and it's going to help organizations not only get started with an AI springboard program, but we're also committed to train over 2,000 individuals annually, making sure that talent base is there. Then we also have different ways that organizations can continue to accelerate much more rapidly. We include working with universities, working with different institutions to make sure that talent is there to help prepare that inspiration forward in so many different ways. And then, of course, from a security and compliance side, making sure that they have the flexibility for what they need to accomplish for whatever their mission need is.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts there. AWS has long talked about builders. How are your AI tools helping clients move from experimentation to scaled deployment faster?
Well, you have to remember when we got started a number of years ago, it was the whole developer community, really, that was the catalyst that helped grow AWS so quickly. From a builder perspective, we have 37 regions around the world that you can scale literally in minutes around. We have a variety of different tools that help move those applications based on what the customer wants. Because remember, the customer owns their data, they own their application. So if there's a ISV here that wants to go ahead and expand into the US markets, not only do we have the region and infrastructure, but we have programs like AWS Marketplace, an amazing marketplace for small businesses, enterprises, and we're seeing in government to procure different solutions, prepackaged applications that are there. We also continue to listen to those builders. Over 95% of our technical roadmap is actually based on what our builders are asking for. And when you have millions of active customers, over 20,000 governments, 60,000 universities that are out there running on AWS, you always have something to work on. And so we're continuing that innovation for those builders.
Speed is the name of the game. It's a no-brainer if you want to stay ahead of the curve. That being said, doing so without much oversight can have consequences. But what's the most common mistake you see when governments and enterprises attempt to scale AI too quickly?
It's not so much a technical challenge that they run into. It's more of a cultural challenge. And from that perspective, it's making sure that, first of all, there's the infrastructure there to scale. We've been producing that for quite some time. But then it's how to get started. It's thinking through the policies, the safeguards for responsible AI. Now, we have a number of different tools that are out there. Amazon Guardrails is a great service that helps organizations responsibly use their data as they continue on their generative AI platform. Looking at, for instance, AWS Nitro, a foundation in our EC2 instances. And so from that perspective, it's helping build that culture of innovation. It's breaking the stereotype or the momentum of, well, we're all right now. Why do we need to go ahead and change? And what we're seeing around the globe, whether that's a startup or an enterprise, large governments acting like startups right now. And that momentum is continuing to accelerate. So for instance, here in Singapore, IMDA, amazing forward-leaning organization, has leveraged the AWS Generative AI platform to reduce preparing legal briefs from literally 10 to 15 hours to 10 minutes. That productivity is amazing. Look at Tata Consulting that uses our Amazon Q developer. They've gone ahead and increased productivity 30%. The National Australian Bank also using Amazon Q for developer, increasing productivity 18%. And so these organizations are really leaning into the generative AI solution sets that we've got.
Some great examples you've shared there, Jeffrey, but we're also witnessing growing complexity, not just with respect to the speed at which technology is changing, but in the broader geopolitical landscape as well. So we've got fragmentation across regions, across standards, across regulations. Against that backdrop, how is AWS helping organizations navigate all this uncertainty?
Well, when we got started with AWS in the beginning, at day zero, we were focused on security and compliance. And that's something that we continue every single day. And that is to make sure that we meet and exceed the government's requirements, whatever they are. from that perspective, we not only meet them from a technical perspective, but there's an evolution occurring from a legislation perspective. And that's why we work very closely with elected officials to, first of all, understand cloud computing, understand generative AI. What are the responsibilities of CSPs like ours, as well as the organizations themselves? Then it's also looking at partnerships. Take, for instance, our relationship with the government of Costa Rica. They did an amazing work bringing private and public organizations together to produce the government's AI regulations. That not only has the agility, but it also has the security, the compliance, the auditability that's there. So from that perspective, while we continue to have amazing services like Guardrails, as I mentioned, Nitro, and a variety of different parts that help organizations have responsible AI wrapped with security, wrapped with compliance, it's also helping legislation understand their responsibility in a very proactive way.
Yeah, I want to touch on some more case studies, if you don't mind me asking. What are some standout examples where AI has truly made a difference? Perhaps you can hone in specifically on public services, healthcare, or inclusion in the APAC region.
Well, you're asking me a little as a parent to say which child I like. And so, from that one, it's a little hard. But let me hit a couple here, specifically in the region. Take Japan, for instance, with Fujita University. Their healthcare system leveraging generative AI helps outpatients get out of the hospital once they've been cleared by their doctor 90% faster. Having been in an ER not so long ago, I couldn't wait to get out. So, from that perspective, it's helping not only the productivity, but helping the patients move more rapidly into the next phase of healing and treatment. Throughout the geo, we also have cultural issues. I mean, this is one of the wonderful strengths of this region. Culture, language, food, history. Here in Singapore, we work really closely on a project called Sea Lion, leveraging our generative AI platform to make sure we're not only protecting that, but we're also extending that in so many different ways. Malaysia has just started a new project where they have different dialects that are spoken. And they're starting to use our generative AI platform, not only to protect it and make sure that the culture and the history is there, but looking at new and exciting ways that they can extend it into commerce, into communities, to bridge the different digital divides that are out there. And so we see generative AI as an opportunity not only to protect diversity, but to extend it into so many different wonderful avenues.
Well, by the sounds of it, the AI-driven future is looking bright, and you've done a fantastic job of explaining why exactly that is. Jeffrey, thank you so much for your time and insights.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be back here in Singapore.
Thank you for the deep dive, Jeffrey. We really value the partnership, and we're looking forward to continuing to co-create what's next together.